Nate, you mentioned equality is something people are seeking, value. So sure, many of you have been to a very large chain restaurant when you have a Bible of a menu. Um, my philosophy is, make sure you have fewer items, but you control everything and you execute them greatly at a higher level versus have too many items on the menu and they're all mediocre at best and most likely frozen. So our take was to have a very limited menu, small. We have 24 items on the menu. That's including desserts, appetizer, and entrees. And really do everything in house and just be smart about production. So I do have a full-time baker. My baker will do pretzel by hand. He'll twist them by hand. Yeah, I'll do 1,000 some a week. Um, he'll do the burger buns. We do brioche buns. You can see on the picture we have a bakery. He does those bad boys, the crostini. So we do our own baguettes. So we'll use our baguettes to do the toast points on our bruschetta. And every dessert's baked in house. Cheesecake's made in house. We have a bread pudding that we put our pretzels in there. Um, so it's all about being smart. Wise chef once told me if you bring an ingredient, you have to use it at least 3 times. So not only we're trying to be as clever and agile as possible in the kitchen, but by doing so, it's easier to duplicate a fewer item at a higher level and keep that consistency really high than having too many moving parts. I do have a huge kitchen. I do have a lot of room. Honestly, I don't use all of it. Um, so what's come down to it is we also we have a different approach to most restaurant. I have a high volume background. I definitely use the trick of the trade that I've learned along the way. I do more of a kitchen of assemblage, and that is I have some prep cook in the back. They will do certain stages, for example, making sauces and things like that. And the line would just assemble, heat up, or things like that. And all in the sake of um, working those ticket times. And, if I have a bus or two, I want to make sure I keep things under 20 minutes or less, preferably towards 10 if I
Yep.
can. And so everything's engineered for speed and quality. Um, pretzel and everything like that. We actually do the dough from, in scratch in house with fresh yeast. So we let them proof overnight, shaped up raw in the cooler. So we control the fermentation, just like, doing beers, but that's with the bread. That's the culinary alternative. We do use our beer into our pretzel dough as well, by the way. Uh, but we control that. So every morning we'll bake them fresh and my baker would do the batch for the next day. So we're always ready ahead of time, a day ahead. So if I sell too many pretzel that day, most likely it would be done doing the batch for tomorrow. So I would say, hey, do me 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 more trays before you go home today. Looks like we're going through a lot of pretzel. And it goes all the way to I do have steaks. We're in the country here, and it's steak and potato country. It's all about comfort food. People want they drink beer, then they want to eat some great, some good, like they say, good eating. So for them, it has to be meat and potatoes and starches. And we've tried many things to be on the healthier side, but it doesn't really stick. They want what they want, and the guests visiting us is kind of dictating our menu to some extent. So having a butcher as well, we ground our own beef, we cut our own steak from the subprimal cuts. So I have appetizer that I use that, I don't like to say recycle because it doesn't sound good, but when you have a full, you know, large section of beef, you cannot use all of it on steaks. You're gonna have some trims. Well, with some of the trims, I'm able to turn that into, roast beef material, I would say, and I'm able to do like I do a New York roast beef for an appetizer that's called beef and brie. But any unusable part that are great part, great quality, is probably a filet mignon or ribeye or whatever, a part of it. Also get to recycle in the burger or when we do chili and things like that. So everything's thought ahead of time. Um, but it's all about that food cost, obviously, because if you open that gate, you have to have the knowledge. You have to be able to have no waste or as little as possible. And that is the ultimate challenge of running a scratch kitchen in a higher volume. So for us to be successful, we have to stick to a small menu. And like I mentioned, use it in many areas. And just be honest with yourself. It's that too much for us to handle? If it is, cut a few items. And people are not upset that there's not a Bible of a menu. They actually, as long as they enjoy what they're eating and having a great time in beer, they're actually super happy. And you know what? You're creating a challenge. So we created a challenge here. Who has the best burger in town, the best Reuben in town, and so all this kind of that friendly competition that comes up, also by limiting the menu. But yeah, that's kind of what we do. And then the last touch is we do weddings and things and large events. We have buyouts for 300 people, 400 people, and I will use my current ingredients. Yeah, I'll buy a few exclusive options, but I'm able to use the current ingredients to turn into a more upper scale dining experience. So, like I say, we have a lot of flexing muscle. By doing so, we've been super, super successful. So, knock on wood.